Kelly, we ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to have so many here. Welcome to Township of North Frontenac's council meeting for Thursday, June the 12th. I'd like to begin by reading a notice on recorded meetings. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. First item up, approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda dated June 12th, 2025 as circulated.
Are there any comments? Seeing none, in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have no business profiles. Presentation, I like this one. Senior of the Year. You don't have to stand just yet. So usually I do a little bit of research about when we award this because you want to say something nice about what the people did and so on. In Betty's case, I didn't have to do anything. If it's been done, she's done it. In fact, she is the reason we have an economic development task force. She's part of the North Frontenac Astronomy Volunteers. She runs or works the Festival of Stars. She's into crafting. She's part of the Clare Mill Volunteers. You've been a counselor. What else have you been? Any? Yes. You haven't, and you never messaged a beat talking nice about the township. Thank you for that. Anyway, it's my pleasure to award you our Senior of the Year award.
You should have known that. I can never just get up here and not say something.
When you're done, would you give the mic to Brooke? Thank you.
I'll do that. Anyways, Mayor Lichty, Deputy Mayor Ingles, council members, staff, friends, family and visitors. I feel very honored and humbled to accept this honor today. I was born a city girl in Windsor, later moving to Kingston, but always felt I should be living in the country. In 1987, my wish came true, and we moved to Ampa. I quickly became acquainted with many of the residents and found it to be very friendly, and soon knew they would help if needed, and at times we did need the help. Then a couple of years later, we moved to Plevna, and I found more time to be integrated and started by the first group I think I joined when I was living here was the Plevna Fire Auxiliary Ladies way back. And then I was hooked. I haven't looked back since. Since then, I've helped when and where I can and represented wards 2 and 3 on council. I am very proud to be a member of this community and being an ambassador to all I meet. Thank you.
So I believe we have some refreshments, some cake to celebrate Betty's appointment or award. Welcome back, everyone. Our next presentation is Richard Allen, Manager of Economic Development, the County of Frontenac, and Debbie Miller, Community Development Officer, County of Frontenac. Welcome, folks.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Lichty and the rest of council for having us here today. We're pleased to come up and speak to you briefly about economic development work at Frontenac County. We would like to start our presentation with a brief video, assuming we can get the technology gods to work for us.
To me,
Frontenac is Creek. A profoundly beautiful place.
place to come and relax.
It's pure.
Raw.
Wild.
This is a different type of tourism.
It's an adventure.
To me, nature in Frontenac feels
Abundant.
It's a very connected, vibrant part of the world.
it's a wonder you can even find a spot to build a house because there are so many lakes and wetlands.
If you want to go swimming, just like drive 5 minutes down any road and you'll hit it. And our trails are awesome.
It is one of the best nature trails around, I've been told.
I choose to live in Frontenac because it's
My traditional territory.
I've been here for 58 years.
I believe that I can contribute something, and I believe that I can learn something.
Because it's the perfect mix of all my favorite things.
I think that people don't see themselves as part of the land anymore. And it is so important for us to see ourselves as part of those cycles, as part of those animals, as part of that land, to take time for just you in nature.
For me, it's like therapy.
Every place has a feel, it has an energy.
And all the little intricacies that keep it very, very fresh.
there's a certain like tempo of living out here that's like very graceful.
People retreat into nature here, you know, to unplug and unwind and refresh and refuel.
Frontenac is a beautiful place to call home.
You must come prepared for anything.
You don't know what's gonna happen, or who you're gonna meet.
It's intensely beautiful.
I think that's an important feature to be celebrated.
I feel like this place kind of has my back.
Frontenac is home now.
We have this little gem.
There's a little surprise inside. Yeah.
Thank you. We put that video together over 2 years, working with local businesses and residents to be the voices and tell the story of Frontenac. And we think it sort of does a good job representing the various values that our communities have here in the county. I encourage you though to go home and turn up the volume when you play it at home, because the vibe is a lot more exciting. The music is a lot more exciting when you do that. I'm sure that those people streaming at home were able to do that for us today. We put that video out on social media over a month ago, and we've been sharing versions of it ever since. We'd say that probably close to 15,000 people have watched it. We've achieved that kind of reach by partnering with the regional tourism organizations, Regional Tourism Organization 11 called Ontario's Highlands, which represents North Frontenac, Regional Tourism Organization 9, Southeastern Ontario, which represents South Frontenac and Frontenac Islands, and also with Destination Ontario. And so without their support, we wouldn't be able to get that video out in front of a lot of other people who haven't discovered us yet. And we hope to continue to promote the region using that video and the ideas behind it. So to just move on with our presentation, I'm going to actually introduce my colleague Debbie. I'm not sure if everyone on your council has met Debbie before in the past, but Debbie Miller has been our community development officer for several years now, and she's got a few of our initiatives that she wants to share with you.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here to share some of the things that I've been working on for the last year. I'm going to turn the page in the annual reports that you've all got in front of you to page 10, healthcare in our community. So this is a project that I've been working on quite a bit over the last year and a half. Last April, in April 2024, we took a report to County Council asking for the recommendation to do an operational review with the 4 clinics across Frontenac County. We did an operational review with a consultant and came back with some findings in March that were, we thought there would be one thing that we could connect with all four of the clinics, but there wasn't. The real big intention was to help it relieve the administrative burden on the clinics across Frontenac County. We're really looking to find ways to help with the recruitment and the retention in the clinics. And we know that the clinics have a really heavy burden. So what we've done from there, the operational review findings came back, and then I put together an implementation plan that went to County Council in May and was approved. So I'm working on that currently. So we'll continue to keep you updated as things happen on that. But there's been lots happening there. So a really great connection and collaboration with the clinics across the region as well. A couple of other things, I'm not going to go through everything in the annual report. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them. But the Business Retreat and Awards, I'm just going to draw attention to that. That's another event that we run in the fall. And it's really the intention is to bring the businesses together to network and connect, to share knowledge and skills and make connections for future projects and things they're working on. We held that at RKY Camp. There was 66 different people that attended the day, and there was a lot of connections made. We eliminate technology. We really focus on making that connection. So another great day. It's going to be Tuesday, October 21st this year. So mark your calendars if there's interest there. And that day also capped off with the Frontenac County Business Awards. So we had 5 award recipients that were presented with their award. There was 5 different awards, and you can see the award on page 13. And that was created by a glass artist in North Frontenac from Red Dragon Studio. And that was, again, one of the things that we've really tried to do through the awards is find an artist across Frontenac County that creates the award and is their interpretation of the Frontenac County brand. So each year it's been a different artist and each year from a different area. Again, continuing to go through some of the other pieces that I've worked on throughout the year, doing business visits with Frontenac Business Services, where each month we're out in a different area. We're connecting with businesses to hear what they're working on and what they need support or resources for. So if you hear of businesses looking for resources or support, or they're looking to start up, let us know and we're happy to connect with them. In May, we had the business networking at Myers Cave, and it was a really great morning where there was lots of connections, and we've heard since that there was a lot of connections made at that meeting. So there's going to be another one coming up in July to celebrate the summer season as well. I'm going to leave it with the last thing being open farms, and open farms this year will be September 5th, 6th, and 7th. We've moved to the weekend instead of a 6-week initiative to really focus on a festival-like feel. But again, there's businesses across the region that are working on that. So I'm going to leave it there and pass it over to Richard to speak about it.
Thanks, Debbie. So we just wanted to say that the business plan that we have that guides our activities is the Charter for Economic Development. So you can see each of you have a separate document, but in the annual report here on page 5, we highlight the 4 pillars of the of the charter, which are economic infrastructure, housing, food and beverage, and tourism, all things that I'm sure have come up around this council table in the past year. Economic infrastructure, all of the business connections that we've been building, that's part of the infrastructure, the social fabric of our business community here, and we want to continue to invest in that. But we're also looking at things to ensure that businesses can operate like broadband internet, cellular reception. So we're monitoring those pieces as well when it comes to economic infrastructure. When it comes to tourism infrastructure, one of the key economic development projects we've had is the KMP Trail, and we have an annual report for the KMP Trail as well that speaks to the work that we've done. We're proud to say that we were able to develop it in North Frontenac for the first time in 2024. We were able to extend the trail 8 kilometers north of Clarendon Station up to the Mississippi River. Lots of people are just discovering that we've done this work, and they're enjoying the fresh gravel on the trail. It used to be a part that people, even on ATVs, would skip because it was too rough and difficult to ride. Part of that trail fills a gap in a larger project that we're now doing with our partners in Renfrew, Lanark, the Township of Rideau Lakes, Cataraqui Conservation, the town of Smiths Falls, something we're calling the Eastern Ontario Rail Trail Loop. So that's just here on pages 6 and 7. You can see a map of that. It's a 360-kilometer loop of rail trails across Eastern Ontario, and they're connected to much longer trails as well. We think that this, by working on this product, we can attract visitors to our region from all over Canada, if not the world, by strengthening the amenities that are located along the loop. Most of the infrastructure here is already in place. So really what needs to happen is the development of the experience. So we're focusing on improving hotel stays, food and beverage offerings, those kinds of things for trail users who might be interested in experiencing the loop. So the other piece is we've already just last week we managed to upload to Google Street View the KMP Trail in North Frontenac as well. So last year was our first year working with Street View. If you're not familiar with Street View, you can see what a road looks like from the street level using Google Maps. We're able to, we bought the technology to be able to do that for our trails. And so we just this spring and May have added the new sections on the trail and the gaps that we've had recently. So if you look at the pretty picture of the mayor cutting the ribbon to that section in here, beside it, we have a bit of a description about that work. And so we're pretty pleased to say that North Frontenac is now included in that as well. So if you have any questions about any of the initiatives that we've spoken about or anything else associated with economic development, we'd be pleased to take those questions now. Otherwise, we'll get out of the way of the rest of your meeting.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilor Hoodle.
Thank you for the presentation, Richard and Debbie. You know how much of a supporter I am of the KMP Trail. I was in North of 7 on last Saturday, and we had 10 ATVers come in, and they're looking for more trails up here. So we have to get some lateral lines between the KMP Trail and bring them further into North Frontenac. That's something we need to work on.
What grants, Richard? What grants? Pardon? Find the money. Councilor Hermer?
Richard, to recoup some of the costs, have you considered at some point charging a user fee?
So one of the things that we started this year in terms of the trail is we require permits with an ATV or an organization that issues them. So either the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance or the Ontario Federation of ATV clubs. Both of those organizations then provide us with some funds back for the maintenance and management of the trail. When we look at this loop idea, something that we're looking at is creating a map or a passport that's extremely overpriced, but people will want it as a souvenir to help fund the trail. And this is something that I mean, I'm joking when I say extremely overpriced, but this is a technique that's used in other parts of the world in terms of funding their trail initiatives. And so it's something that we think that we can apply with our partners.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes, thank you, Richard. Any idea when the rest of the KMP will be finished up to the Lanark border?
As the mayor earlier said, it's all about grants. And so we have 12 kilometers left to rehabilitate in North Frontenac to get to the Lanark border. The lands are in the process of transferring to the county or are already in the county's possession. So we just need to find the development partners to move forward with that rehabilitation project. And that usually means a significant grant, such as the Rural Economic Development Program grant that funded the last 8 kilometers we developed.
So I think, Councillor Fowler, you will remember we applied for a grant to take it from the bridge up to the community hall in Snow Road. So we're still waiting to hear from that, right? Yeah, okay. Anyone else? I've got 2 comments. First of all, I'd like to thank Debbie for her work on the medical side. At North Frontenac's request, they included comments from the Northbrook or the Lakelands Family Health Team. They have a family health centered model, which is different than a doctor centered model. And so those comments were valuable. And on the video, the very last slide shows the 2 kids doing this, pointing to the stars. And I hadn't noticed it before, but that matches the logo on the North Frontenac Astronomy Park. So thank you for that, whether it was intentional or not.
It wasn't, but it was filmed in the North Frontenac Parklands, so lines up pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Richard and Debbie. Drive safe. You're welcome to stay if you wish. Right?
Motion?
Yes, please.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the presentation from Richard Allen, Manager of Economic Development, and Debbie Miller, Community Development Officer at the County of Frontenac, providing an overview of the programs and initiatives with economic development, and thanks them for their time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor of the resolution? Resolution's carried. Okay, that's it for presentations. We have Kevin White from Electric Energy Solutions to talk to us about battery energy storage systems. Welcome, Kevin. You might have to turn that mic on. I'm not sure.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm joined online by my colleague David Anders as well. Can answer or fill in any blanks that I may have. So Mr. Mayor, Council, and everybody who's in attendance, thank you very much for having me this evening. My name is Kevin White. I am with Electra Energy Solutions. Let's do I move this forward? There we go. Brief agenda for everybody. Who Electra is, I think that'd be quite important for everybody to know. Why we're here this evening, so Ontario's energy needs. The IESO's long-term 2 RFP, or LT2 as it's called, what we are looking to submit a project into. What is battery energy storage systems, or BESS, the proposed project and next steps. So Electra Energy Solutions is a part of Electra Inc. Electra Inc. is a municipally owned energy company. We are the sister company to Electra Utilities, which serves about 4 million people around the greater Golden Horseshoe area. By customer count, Electra Inc. is North America's 2nd largest municipally owned energy company and Canada's largest. Electra Energy Solutions is the commercial side of the company. So we do both in front of and behind the meter renewable energy projects from clients from regular companies, institutions, colleges, universities, Pearson Airport, for example. We do a lot of their electrical work, from solar, battery, EV chargers, sub-metering, the whole gamut. So why we're here this evening? So Ontario needs a lot of new power. If you happen to see in the news from time to time, you'll hear Minister Lecce talk about the needs of the province's energy needs over the next 25 years. So about a 75% increase in power needs. And we, as of today, do not have the resources online to actually meet those needs. So those needs come from things like new EVs, heat pumps, and just general electrification across the province. We could start seeing shortfalls as soon as 2027. But the good news is a lot of these energy resources are coming online today. So there have been a couple of procurements to date for new energy resources, battery being the main driver so far. So the ISO, the Independent Electricity System Operator, is undergoing a number of procurements for new energy resources. The upcoming procurement called LT2 is focused in two different areas, generation and storage. So new generation resources being mostly, it's technology agnostic, but solar and wind are big ones. And then on the storage side, it's mostly going to be batteries. In the past, so Electra Energy Solutions, in partnership with Convergent Energy and Power, have been awarded 3 battery projects, all 3 of which are under construction today in Guelph and Vaughan. So a little bit about LT2. As I mentioned, it's broken down into 2 different streams, energy generation and energy storage. Tonight, we're talking about energy storage, which would be batteries in this case. The RFP, the final RFP is not actually out yet. So we have the draft, it's due out, the final RFP is supposed to be out next week. Submission date for the capacity stream, as it's called in this case for batteries, would be in December. Between now and then, there's a lot of steps that we need to take, and this tonight is the first one, consultation with the municipality. Awards will be announced in Q2 of 2026, so approximately 1 year from now, we will know which proponents are successful. And these, in this first round, the assets need to be online by 2030. So what is BESS? So BESS stands for Battery Energy Storage Systems. In short, it is essentially utility scale batteries using lithium ion mostly. So the same type of batteries that you would have in your cell phones and many devices that you have at home. In this case, we're just using them on a larger scale to help support the provincial grid with the energy needs that we're seeing. How they work mostly is they'll charge at nighttime and then they'll deploy when the ISO needs them during the day. So on a hot summer day, for example, when a lot of people are running air conditioners or their heat pumps or charging their EVs, for example, these batteries would be deployed to put more energy into the system. So there is reliability and no rolling brownouts. BESS units themselves are not new. They've been in operation for over a decade in Ontario, both on the commercial side behind the meter, but also in front of the meter as well. So utility scale. Technology is constantly evolving, constantly getting better. And the battery units themselves follow stringent compliance guidelines from the ESA to the Ontario Energy Board. A number of fire electrical standards, safety standards must be deployed, must be implemented upfront in order to actually deploy these assets. There's a lot of sign off that needs to happen before they actually come online. So the project that we are looking at proposing today, now this is a mock-up, would be directly beside the 506 WDS waste site. It's ideally situated for a project like this because it's also directly beside 4 transmission lines, all of which have capacity to support a project. In total, we would probably be looking at, it says 18 to 20 acres on there. We could probably scale that down with the actually new iteration of drawing that we just received today from the battery supplier to about 10 to 15 acres to get about the same number of megawatts, which in this case would be about a 140 megawatt project. The lands themselves are municipally owned, which is why I'm here this evening. to talk to you all about how we can move forward together in possibly moving this project into the RFP. So in terms of next steps, and what I'm here to seek guidance and support from council on is that we look to enter into an option to lease agreement with the municipality to option the land. We need to show some sort of security over the land in order to actually submit into the competitive RFP. But also move through the consultation process with the community. We've already started consultations with the Algonquins of Ontario. We've had a couple meetings with them, which have been positive to date. And then something that we do for all of our projects is, in order to show partnership, offer $1,000 per megawatt awarded should we be successful to the municipality. So this is a long-term partnership between Electra Energy Solutions and the municipality of North Frontenac. And with that, there's a timeline at the bottom that I want to point to. So June 2025, now, when the RFP comes out, if we are able to move forward this evening, we'd like to work with staff to come up with an option agreement on the lands themselves, do community consultation, continue our First Nations consultation over the summertime. Ultimately, we also need a municipal support resolution from the municipality in order to actually submit the bid itself. That is not a blanket approval of the project. It simply allows us to submit into the RFP. If we are awarded the RFP, we still need to go through all approvals, so municipal, provincial approvals, and environmental approvals, permitting, site plan. All that would still need to be done if we are awarded the project afterwards. And that would all start a year from now, June 2026. So that is my presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Kevin. Does council have any comments that this is for us? Councillor Hermer first, then Deputy Mayor.
Well, I have a question. Where do you purchase the batteries from?
So there's a number of different suppliers. The ISO is putting, you might have read in the news that the province is limiting procurements from certain areas of the world. The minister, through Bill 5, would have more authority as to where items can be procured. Most come from Asia, realistically. Canada does not make batteries of this nature. But with that said, there are other suppliers that we are currently looking at in order to ensure that we are compliant with all of the ISO guidelines in terms of procurement.
Deputy Mayor.
I'm comfortable with this notion because I've been looking at it, thinking about it for 2 or 3 years, maybe longer. But there's a large public which has not yet had the opportunity to make comments. And I just wonder if the mayor or anybody else, I guess it would be the mayor or the CAO, if we have actual plans for public meetings where we can learn what the public's concerns are. I understand it's not going to happen here in any depth, but I would like to know what the plans for public input are.
I am going to answer that. The resolution on the table essentially asks, as council, we are asking staff to arrange with Electra to host public meetings and solicit public input. So we've got that covered. We all realize that this is a pretty dicey issue. Anyone else? Councillor Hoodle. Mr. Fowler.
Thank you, Kevin, for your presentation. Just if this project does get approved, and we still haven't had public consultation, there's still many questions to be asked. And it's a 20-year contract, my understanding. So in the contract, what happens after 20 years? Because there is some concern from some people that I've talked to. Okay, who's going to clean up the battery? What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if Electra goes bankrupt? Right? What I'm not saying they are, but these are questions that people are asking me.
Of course, yeah. So the decommissioning of the site would be on us. We would put up a letter of credit of sorts of security that would show that we would decommission the site and return it to how we found it. Electra, I would hope, would not go bankrupt. We are a municipally owned company ourselves. And in terms of maintenance and all of that, they would all be on us.
So Councillor Fowler, then I'll come back to you.
And is this to get that feedback there? Is this to supplement renewables because they fluctuate all the time? Or is this just based on usage?
So these batteries themselves, they supplement the grid as a whole. So the entire provincial grid. So the entire provincial grid is all interconnected. There's different, as demand rises through, hot summer day, for example, and there are peaks. These batteries are then deployed to put more power into the system to ensure that we can meet those peaks. These themselves, they're non-emitting batteries. They're dry batteries. So in essence, you can say, yes, I don't want to say they're supplementing renewables, but they're supplementing the entire grid, and renewables are a part of our entire grid system.
The big thing,
Councillor Fowler, it's Councillor Hoodle's turn.
Just one quick question. We had talked previously about, these are unmanned stations, right? So it's like a substation on 506.
Yeah.
But as it's being built, if it does get approved, there's going to be clearing of the land, there's going to be aggregate that's needed. I would like to see, if electric is awarded this program, that we use as much local business as possible, right? For the first stage of the project.
Correct. Yeah. So we would make best efforts and work with yourselves to try and hire local where possible. Obviously, some of the other work, larger engineering firms will have to come in and put in larger conduit and whatnot. So there are some strict safety standards around that. But in terms of initial work that could be done, yes, we would do our best to try and hire local. And then even any ongoing maintenance work around the lands and whatnot, we can certainly look into that as well.
Councillor Fowler, you're okay? Councillor Regent.
Thank you for the presentation. When you say public consultation, what do you mean by that?
So in this round, the public consultations, in order for us to achieve a municipal support resolution, it's actually up to the municipality and how we are to engage the public. So we'd work with staff to determine the best way to do that. So typically, renting out a community room of sorts, sending out mail, putting it on the township website to let everybody know, and then we'd host a Q&A of sorts. So that's open to the public.
So just a follow-up comment. I would suggest, as you can tell, there's a lot more people interested in things like this in the evening. So if the intent is to have these meetings during the day, I would suggest that get reconsidered, because you will not get the public to a daytime meeting, and you will in an evening meeting.
Yes, typically we have evening meetings, but again, this would be for staff to let us know the best, what is the preference of the municipality.
One of the things we could consider is one during the day and one during the evening. That we get as many people as possible, because it is. Can you talk to us about fire? It's a big issue.
Yep.
So let's hear from Electron. What do you think? What is your experience?
Yes, so my colleague David can speak to the more technical side better than I can. In terms of the technology that we're currently deploying on our 3 sites that we're building now, it's a very modular system. So the big C cans that you see, if you look online, that technology is very old and not used anymore for the most part. The technology that we're deploying, they're essentially like household refrigerator size modules, and they're spaced apart so that if one of them does fail, it can't propagate to other ones, proper venting of that sort. But I'll hand it over to my colleague David to add some additional context.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. So just to add a little bit more detail to that, like Kevin said, the technology has advanced quite a bit. So although, we do hear about or have heard about in the news, battery fires, especially with some of the older installations, there has been a lot of advances. So it's really a multi-layered approach. Number one is the design of the units themselves. And as Kevin mentioned, the industry as a whole has gone towards a lot more modularized construction. And then the idea there is to isolate as much as possible the cells and the modules, such that when you have some issue, if you have overheating in one individual cells, it doesn't spread throughout the units and create a larger problem. You have to sort of envision these are all almost like an array of very small batteries arrayed into larger modules and units and then containerized. So on top of that, and make use of battery management systems that are designed to monitor all the conditions, continuously shut units down before something happens. And then there's, on top of that, additional supervisory systems, smoke alarms, heat alarms. We do employ redundancy in our system, so we'll have on-site thermal cameras as well. And then, the designs themselves are governed by a number of standards. So UL, ULC, and ESA when it comes to electrical. There are fire safety standards like NFPA 855, and we would evaluate our systems and our installation in accordance with those standards. We'd also bring in a third party to independently evaluate that. And as well, we work with manufacturers that test their units as a full-scale fire testing. And there's a UL standard 9540A that deals with this as well. And what we've seen in the most modern systems where they've essentially mimicked those real-world scenarios where you might have a battery fire is that such incidents don't spread to additional units, and that typically these fires can burn out within a couple hours or less. So those are the kind of standards that we would insist upon. We take safety very seriously. As a utility company, we're very familiar with supplying what's inherently a dangerous product in a very safe way, and would ensure that we adhere to the highest safety standards in our own installation and also in the products that we procure.
Thank you. Councillor Hermer.
I found it a little hard to hear you, but so I'll ask this question. Are there specialized automatic fire extinguishers within the dwelling?
Yeah, so typically, in early days, they employed things like aerosols and sometimes even, water spray systems. What's shown to be the most effective, though, now is to really focus on isolating the units and preventing the fire from spreading, and allowing the energy within the batteries to exhaust itself and the fire to essentially burn itself out. So I think generally what fire departments are doing these days and being trained on is to essentially monitor and isolate and make sure that that it doesn't spread to anything. The design considerations should also make sure that we're not sort of putting any other infrastructure in danger in terms of where these things are being placed. But there really isn't anything else that's employed. We don't want to necessarily douse them with a lot of water because that can obviously create runoff and other things.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor or Deputy Mayor?
I've been pushing for a week now for the Environmental Task Force's FAQ document, frequently asked questions about BESS, to be put on the township website. I hope this is the time that it will happen, because it
Deputy Mayor, that is a committee decision. I'm sure you can take it up, and I'm sure Councillor Hoodle and the other members of the committee will give it top priority.
I sure
You
hope
know
so.
that answer already. Nice try. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, I have one last question. Proximity to residences and other buildings. Are there standards, and if so, roughly what are they?
David, do you know if there's any setbacks from residential? So, for example, I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. We do have a battery system in operation right now at Georgian College, for example, that is right beside someone's backyard. With that said, this site that we're talking about this evening is quite isolated, from any surrounding residential, a few hundred meters at least. The closest structure, I think, is actually at the waste facility itself. The biggest setback that we would have at this site would actually be from the transmission lines themselves. So Hydro One has a 100-meter setback from those lines.
Yeah, just to add on that, it typically comes down to a noise requirement. That's generally what would drive setbacks to residential. And that would be an assessment that we would do for any one of our projects to ensure that we're below provincial standards when it comes to noise with any nearby receptor. And from a noise source, I mean, really what we're generally talking about is the units, to keep them cool in the summer, would have sort of like a typical air conditioning system on them. So it would be sort of a hum from that you might get. And like I said, we would ensure that that's taken into consideration in the siting and in the design to ensure that we're below provincial standards when it comes to noise.
So on that particular issue, they're hooked to the grid for power, or are they using their own, or the self-powered? So if the hydro grid goes down, is the installation drawing power from its own batteries to keep it cool, or what happens?
Typically, that's right. So there would be redundancy just for the purposes like you said, maintain the health of the battery on site if there was a power outage, but otherwise, the units are designed to be connected to the grid to push and pull power as the grid demands it.
Okay, final call for comments. Cheryl, would you read the resolution, please?
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved that council receives for information the presentation from Kevin White, Government Relations and Development with Electra Solutions, and thanks and first time spent today. And the council directs the clerk's department to work with Electra Energy Solutions to conduct public consultations regarding the proposed battery energy storage system in North Frontenac Township. And that the Environmental Task Force is directed to work with Electra Energy Solutions to develop information regarding a potential battery energy storage system in North Frontenac for the township's website and social media, and that the Public Works Manager is directed to work with Electra Energy Solutions to negotiate potential use of municipal land for council's consideration at an upcoming meeting.
Any final comments? Seeing none, in favor of the resolution? The resolution is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to stay if you want. If not, drive safe. Item 8, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes as circulated of a public meeting of council regarding amendments to the fees and charges bylaw held May 15th, 2025. A regular meeting of council held May 15th, 2025, and a meeting of the Personnel and Audit Committee held May 27th, 2025.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, item 9B, 9A, I guess. Manager Community Development Electronic Vehicle Charging Station Usage Report.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Whereas at the meeting held April 25th, 2025, council passed resolution 15025, instructing the manager of community development to provide monthly usage reports of the EV chargers to council. Now therefore be resolved that council receives for information the May 2025 usage report.
Any comments? Brooke, it looks like with this, our usage is increasing nicely. Can we get that graph changed to a line graph, like maybe once a month or on the 15th of the month and the final date, so we can see over time what's happening? Because right now we have a bunch of figures, which is really nice, but if I'm a graphics person, if it's possible. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? In favor of the resolution? That's carried. Okay, 9B, strong mayor powers.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Whereas at the meeting held on April 25th, 2025, council received for information the Chief Administrative Officer's administrative report entitled Strong Mayor Powers. Now therefore be resolved that council receives for information an email dated June 5th, 2025 from the Clerk Planning Manager, providing an overview of the provisions the mayor has chosen to delegate, being appointment, suspension, or dismissal of the Chief Administrative Officer to council, organizational structure to council and the Chief Administrative Officer, as per the Personnel and Employment Policy, and committees to council. The council receives for information the forms to be completed if the mayor chooses to use strong mayor powers, and that additional information regarding the process for the mayor to propose and adopt the annual budget and policies requiring updates will be provided to council at a future meeting.
Are there any comments or questions? Deputy Mayor.
I think I understand this, but it looks to me as if you are saying you're going to delegate these powers to council in general, as is the case now, but you do reserve the option to engage the strong mayor power if you think it's necessary. Is that right?
Close. I'm not choosing to keep them. That's the way the legislation is actually written. So I can choose to let council do this. And even if I said I'll never use them, I can always step in and use them. That's the way it's written. And if it's not me, it'll be the next mayor and the mayor after that and the mayor after that. So it's always better to work as a team, and that's what this is set up for. And we're changing the procedural bylaws to actually suit this. And I have to commend staff and the amount of work. It is horrendous. I spent like an hour with Tara and Kelly and Corey going through this. And we're giving as much away as we possibly can to the council, and only keeping what we are mandated to keep. Councillor Fowler.
As if we change mayors, are we going to be changing our policies?
These are always there. It would take, it's up to the individual. I'm just telling you how, with these forms, this is how I see it operating. On day one, 169 municipalities were given strong mayor powers. Quinte East, first day, CAO's gone. 15% of the CAOs is the term, roughly, or the amount roughly of the CAOs in the first week were fired by the mayors. Why would you ever do that? Anyway, so all I'm saying, this is what I'm committing to the best that I possibly can. And I cannot speak for any other mayor following. So it becomes so important to choose your councilors and to choose your mayor, more important than ever. So, okay. Deputy Mayor, do you have a comment?
I guess what that means is we cannot write a policy which contradicts the provincial directive. Is that basically it?
That's it. That's it. So, and we're not working in isolation. We're working very closely with Central Frontenac and other jurisdictions that have the same issues. Okay, it applies everywhere. Okay, so it's just a resolution to receive this information, as Tara has read it. In favor of the resolution, receiving it, that motion's carried. Okay, 9C.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler, whereas at the meeting held December 13th, 2024, Council passed Resolution 43624, receiving for information an email dated December 5th, 2024 from the Masma Property Owners Association, advising the Ontario Protecting the Environment from Harmful Invasive Species grant funds had been released with an application deadline of January 15th, and the council instructed the manager of community development to work with the MPOA to apply for $3,500 micro grant for invasive species prevention measures with a township contribution of $1,750. Now therefore be resolved that council receives for information an email from the manager of community development advising the township was unsuccessful in obtaining the invasive species grant.
Are there any comments? In favor? Carried. Item 10A, Clerk's Administrative Report, Communications A section.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information Section A items of the Clerk's Administrative Report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Communications B section, action items. B1, Township of Pushlands, request for support, ban Nazi swastika in Canada.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Be resolved that council receives for information the Township of Pullnich resolution advising in recent years Nazi iconography has surfaced an alarming frequency used by an increasing number of groups and individuals to promote hate and instill fear within Canadian society, and that the Nazi Hukanku has become universally synonymous and systemic violence, terror, and hate, and its growing presence in our country undermines the core values of equality, diversity, and inclusion that defines our nation. And that North Frontenac Council supports the Durham Regional Council's request for the Government of Canada to pass legislation banning, with exception for certain educational and artistic purposes, the public display of Nazi symbols of hate and iconography, specifically ban of the Nazi Hukankat, ban all Nazi symbols of hate and iconography, and that council instructs the clerk to provide this resolution to the Honorable Era Minister of Justice, Township of Palmich, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I did, but
Any comments? Counselor Fowler?
Just wondering how this got before our council, who brought it forward? One of the things we're speaking here, you know, like these people, we shouldn't give them an inch at all, these types of people. But then again, what this resolution is asking us to take away freedom of speech. I'd like to have some kind of answer to that, because if we can't speak freely, including these people, as much as we hate them, then why should we support this, saying that you can't do something when it's a form of communication that we're talking about?
Can I respond?
Of course you can.
There within there's the problem. You just recognize your own problem. How can we possibly accept something that demeans people? It symbolizes the ethnic cleansing of civilization. The Nazi agenda was to create a superior Aryan race. And that symbol, well, first of all, if you look at the previous history of the swastika, for centuries in some parts of Europe and primarily Asia, it was a religious symbol. It represented good and kindness. Well, in 1920, Adolf Hitler adopted that as a symbol for the Nazi Party. 19 years later, that Nazi Party was transformed into the Nazi military force that tried to subject the rest of the world to his plan. And it's unacceptable in society that that can be displayed as a public image. It's offensive.
We don't need. Hey, excuse me, this is the council meeting. So
This is the
It does-
council meeting, be quiet.
you too, Deputy Mayor, please. Hey. Counselor Fowler, you have one response.
Yes, what you just said about what the Nazis do, one of the things they do take away from people is their freedom of speech and expression. They do that. And we're on dangerous ground when we start doing that, because that's part of their ploy. I don't agree with Nazis at all. I think they're terrible people. What they've done, they put our world through hell. They put my relatives through hell, and anybody that had anybody in the armed forces went through hell. It's not that I support them at all, but I'm always concerned about losing my freedom of expression. And we got to be very careful when we pick out a certain item, and that's what these people do. To gain their power, part of what they do is they control your communication, which isn't right.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of this resolution? That resolution is carried. Okay, item B2, Claremelle Community Volunteers Grant Application.
moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the email dated May 7th, 2025 from the Claremelle Community Volunteers requesting permission from the township to apply for a grant in September 2025 for proposed renovations to the storage room next to the kitchen at the Claremelle Community Hall. And the council approves the CMCV and the township's application to the Commonwealth Leaf Initiative for 100% project funding. And the council directs the CAO or CMCV, depending on grant eligibility, to enter into a funding agreement with the Commonwealth Leaf Initiative upon successful application for 100% project funding. And the council directs the manager of community development to work with the CMCV to have the renovations completed if the application for funding is successful.
Comments? I have only one question. Do we know, I'm going to ask Glenda, do we know how much you're going to be asking for? Pardon? Okay, sorry. This is your, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the application is to a maximum of $50,000. So we would work within whatever they would be willing to grant us.
Thank you very much. You can deal with your husband when you get home. Any final comments? In favor of the resolution? That resolution is carried. Okay, item B3, Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility, including regarding June is Seniors Month, 2025.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives for information an email dated May 30th, 2025 from the Honorable Raymond Cho, Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, advising June is Seniors Month, a time to acknowledge and recognize the amazing seniors living across the province of Ontario, and that this year's theme, Fit, Active, and Healthy Senior, highlights the importance of supporting our older adults through programs and initiatives that promote wellness, social engagement, and education. And the council proclaims June as Seniors Month within the Township of North Frontenac, and the provided materials be posted on the township's website and social media to celebrate our outstanding older adults.
Any comments? Seeing none, in favor of the resolution? That resolution is carried. Okay. Item 11? Yeah, item 11. Do I have to give the chair up for this? Because it's my report? Okay. Okay.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information Mayor Licky's administrative report entitled Highlighting the Importance of Housing as an Integral Part of Economic Development through Establishment of a Housing Advisory Task Force, and that a Housing Advisory Task Force be established to provide housing-related information, advice, and recommendations to council, including advice regarding housing in general, seniors housing, rental housing, housing that is affordable, and homelessness, and the precariously housed, but not including social housing. And that the Economic Development Task Force Subcommittee on Housing and the Seniors Housing Committee be dissolved. And that council recognizes the work of the members of the Economic Development Task Force Subcommittee and the Seniors Housing Committee, and thanks them for their time and commitment spent on these important topics. And that all pertinent subcommittee information be transferred to the new Housing Advisory Task Force. And that the newly established Housing Task Force membership will include the mayor, 2 members of council, and 3 council-appointed members of the public, preferably 1 from each ward. The council appoints Mayor Licky as the chair of the task force, and the council appoints, we have a blank as members of the task force for 2 council members. And that should council agree to have a housing advisory task force per the township's procedural policy, the CIO will appoint a secretary and make recommendations for a member of management to be part of the task force. And that staff is directed to advertise for 3 members from the community, preferably 1 from each ward, to participate in the task force, and that the chair of the task force will recommend individuals who responded to the advertisement for the voluntary sector participants on the task force approval by council resolution prior to holding the task force inaugural meeting at an upcoming council meeting.
Comments? Councillor Regent.
So my first question is, why is this replacing the subcommittee that was already part of EDTF that was looking at housing?
First of all, the subcommittee was never approved by this particular council. It was you created with the EDTF, that subcommittee. The council did not know anything what you're doing because nothing came forward. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And it is not high enough profile. If you read the report, it explains all that. It explains what we've done over the last 2.5 years as a council. It brings housing from here and puts it here, and it brings in the big picture. It's all in the report. Deputy Mayor?
Can I comment on my take on the whole development of this?
Yep.
Stephanie, you and I and who else on the EDT? Danielle, we had a subcommittee looking at housing, which grew out of something, an initiative called Barriers to Housing that was started by Derek. And we worked on it and we came up with some plans. And each time I recall at least 2 occasions when our subgroup came up with a plan brought it to the EDTF, and were told by the EDTF that, no, this is not complete enough. This is not ready to go to council yet. Your report doesn't prove, for example, that there is a need. So that directive came from the EDTF itself. And I ended up being very frustrated. And I had actually, before Jerry mentioned this idea, I had thought, well, the only way to make anything happen, I mean, housing is a hugely difficult issue. This is too big for a subgroup of the EDTF. We need a separate group. I had come independently to that conclusion simply because we couldn't even get this idea past the EDTF. We didn't have a firm enough plan that had the backing of the EDTF to take to the full council. So I'm happy to see this development.
Councillor Regent.
I appreciate your insight and the explanation because what you've just said makes perfect sense. But every time we went to the larger group, there was a barrier. Now suddenly there's no barrier. And I just want to register my deepest disappointment that all that work that you and Danielle and I have done is being completely removed from the Economic Development Task Force, and something else is replacing it. And if it's so important, why wasn't this talked about 2.5 years ago? Why now?
Deputy Mayor.
I don't think we have an easy road ahead with the task force. If we create this task force, which is looking at nothing but housing, that group of 6 is going to make a recommendation, and it may agree to take it to council, and council could squash it right away. I don't think the work is wasted either. I mean, we have a whole background of ideas and documents and people that will be brought into a task force. But the only difference now is that the task force may be recognized by council as a more legitimate body in itself. It's not just a subgroup of the EDTF, but it's still going to have a hard road to hoe. We're not going to come up with a solution very quickly, if at all.
So last week, I met with the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Environment, Conservation, Parklands. And I was sitting beside Minister Flack, and he turned to me and he said, Jerry, there is no money anywhere for housing. So if you think we're going to get a grant, that's not going to happen. The only way to push anything forward to create a plan is to raise the importance so it's equal to that created by the EDTF itself and the Environment Committees. This creates a triumvirate of 3, and all 3 take responsibility, and all 3 will fit together to create economic development. It's not intended to minimize what's been done in the past. It's intended to highlight it and take that work forward. Because if it's sitting in a task force, if it's sitting in a subcommittee of a task force, it's not going to come out because it's got 1, 2, 3 steps to get up. This way it's direct input to council. Any other comments? Deputy Mayor.
I'm just guessing, but our wonderful crowd may be very interested in this topic. Is it appropriate to ask for comments? No. Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, this is a council, and you have a section at the end called Mayor's Remarks, or that's our public forum. You can do that. Okay. So, what are your wishes, council? In favor of the resolution? Oh, sorry. Okay, Councillor Regent.
Are we voting on each of these items independently, or is this one vote?
It's one vote. We have to appoint
Okay,
2.
I'd like a
councillors first.
recorded vote then.
Okay. Pardon?
You still need to select the members
That's
first.
what I was saying. So I talked to Councillor Good last night, and he would like to be on this task force. That's up to council. Anybody else like to be on this task force? Councillor Fowler? Anybody else? Deputy Mayor? Okay, so what do we have to do? Hold the vote.
So
you nominate. So those three have been nominated or self-nominated. And so do we have a mover and a seconder for Counselor Good?
Sorry, Rick. Okay, hang on here. I don't want, okay.
Well, we can't accept all three because then you'll have quorum with the mayor, correct? So it can only accept two.
Right. Okay, so if we go through each counselor that's said they would like to be on it, and there's a, you know, they've self-nominated, and they have a seconder, then we'll put them into a pot and we'll vote on it, which one we want. If we don't have a seconder for someone, then they don't go forward. Okay, so, and we need two of the three. Deputy Mayor.
Stephanie has said she's interested. Wayne has said he's interested. I will withdraw my name.
No, you can't. I was interested, yeah. I didn't put my hand up.
Sorry, I thought you did.
No, I didn't.
Didn't see it either. Okay. The one benefit of having a deputy mayor on it is he brings a lot of the information from the subcommittee that they've done up to this level. Okay, that's the only benefit. So let's look first at Councillor Fowler. Do we have a seconder for Councillor Fowler being on the committee? No, Councillor Hermer, you second? Deputy Mayor, do we have Councillor Hoodle and Councillor Good? Councillor Regent. So we have three people, so we need to have a vote. Okay, so how do we do that? Sorry, folks, we don't do this very often.
If we can carry the motion, if we have enough to carry the motion for Counselor Good, so you need a vote on that one.
Okay. All right, we have to vote on each nominee separately.
Yes.
Okay, so the first one up is, and you want to record a vote for each of these, Councillor Regent?
I just like the whole thing to make sure there's a recorded vote.
Okay.
Entire idea.
Okay. Okay. First off is, let's put Councillor Good up. We have a first and a seconder. Who's in favor of having Councillor Good on the committee? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Opposed? Councillor Fowler. So that's okay. And we'll do Councillor Fowler next. Who's in favor of having Councillor Fowler on the committee? Councillor Fowler, 1. Opposed? Okay, that's Councillor Fowler is not on the committee. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Engels. Who's in favor of having Deputy Mayor? 1, 2, 3, 4. He is. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that means Councillor Good and our Deputy Mayor are the other two members of the committee. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to say something here before we go any further and call the vote. Councillor Regent, I'm really surprised at your opposition to this. For a year, you've been talking about housing. And here's a chance to elevate it so that we have a lot of force behind it. And if we're going to do something, we can do it. We eliminate at least one, if not two levels of security comes to mind, but it's the wrong word. But 2 levels of approval before it even gets to council. This is direct line into council. So I just don't see the opposition, and I'm not asking for a response. Okay, all in favor of the resolution? Oh, I'm sorry, record a vote.
Counselor Fowler? Counselor Herber?
Yes.
Counselor Hudel?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Engels?
Yes.
Counselor Regent?
No.
Mayor Lickey?
Yeah. Yes.
The motion is carried 5-1.
Okay, we have an advisory committee of housing. Okay, so item 11B, automatic aid agreement with Central Frontenac and North Frontenac.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief's Administrative Report entitled 2025 Automatic Aid Agreement between Central Frontenac and North Frontenac. And the council directs the fire chief to negotiate with the Central Frontenac to negotiate with Central Frontenac and provide recommendations to council at an upcoming meeting for consideration.
Are there any comments on this? Counselor Hoodle?
Just a quick question to the chief. So do we not have an aid agreement with Central Frontenac already?
Mr. Mayor, through you, we do. Currently, we have an automatic aid agreement in place for structure fires only in Adams 203 and 202, and then ice water protection for all three wards. And as you'll see in my report, recommend considering medical, wildfire, MVC, sort of a full service approach at the automatic aid until we can complement the roster.
So I guess that's my question. We're low on volunteer firefighters out in that area, or?
It's stayed at status quo for quite some time.
Anyone else have any comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. Okay, Director of Emergency Services, Fire Chief, Ampa Fire Station, celebrating 50 years of community service.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief's Administrative Report entitled Ampa Fire Station, celebrating 50 years of community service. And that council approves an open house on a future date to be determined by the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief at the Ampa Fire Station to celebrate 50 years of volunteer firefighter service, 30 years of emergency first responder service, and showcase fire department equipment and recognize the dedicated members of the North Frontenac Fire Department.
Comments, Deputy Mayor?
Just want to say, Adam, I appreciated your little history. I was there when that fire chief had a heart attack.
Anybody else? Okay, in favor of the resolution? That's carried. Do we have an issue with a lot of feedback? Can we have the system looked at again? Okay. Shabamika Lake Landing and Parking Area.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Manager, Community Development's Administrative Report entitled Shabamika Lake Landing and Parking Area. And the council instructs the Manager, Community Development to tag all boats, trailers, notice written by the township and placed on boats by township staff, providing owners with 60 days to claim usage of the boats, and any boats that are not claimed and otherwise abandoned be removed by the township and stored for an appropriate amount of time prior to disposal. And the council approves the Shabamika Lake Association installing 2 metal light posts with solar powered dark and motion activated lights and will not require an electrical connection and conform with the township's outdoor lighting policy, and that the future maintenance of the lights will be responsibility of the Shabamika Lake Association, and that council directs the Manager of Community Development to install signage at the boat ramp to indicate time restrictions per the township's parking bylaw, Section 5C, no person shall park or cause to be parked any vehicle, trailer, boat, or object within 5 meters of any boat launch for an excess of 20 minutes. And that council does not approve signage indicating the areas under video surveillance, as this is not recommended by the township's insurance company.
Are there any comments? Councillor Hoodle.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. So the only problem with it is that we don't have a bylaw officer, right? You know, someone parks there, what are you gonna do? But that's something.
We're still waiting on the parking bylaw fines. Yeah. Yeah, once we get the fines, we can, approve. Okay. Okay, in favor of the resolution? The resolution is carried. Item E, 11E, unsuccessful tax sale options.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Treasurer's Administrative Report entitled Unsuccessful Tax Sale Options. The council approves the write-off of $118,044.31 in taxes and penalty and interest for the property known as 1042-090-010-07402 pursuant to section 354 of the Municipal Act 2001, and that the treasurer be authorized to adjust the cancellation price accordingly and proceed with reoffering the property for tax sale under section 380 of the Act. And the council instructs the treasurer to transfer the cost of the written off municipal taxes and the penalty and interest from the operating contingency reserve in the amount of $84,809.32. The council instructs the treasurer to stop applying penalty and interest to the property until such time it is sold via tax sale or vested by the township.
Comments, Councillor Hoodle, then Councillor Fowler.
So maybe I could ask the treasurer a question. Where exactly is this property? Can you tell us?
You see the map there?
So it's the property in Robertsville, known as sort of the Robertsville mine, people consider it. So it's near the sort of ambulance base area and that.
So if we write up, what happens to this land, Kelly? Like, is it municipal land then? Do we own it or?
So those are the options in front of you right now. So you have the option to write off some of the taxes, and we try to re-tax sale it. In which then if someone is successful, then they would own the property, or the township at this point can wish to vest it, which then we would write off all of the taxes. And then the township would own the property.
Fowler.
Just, I think I might have missed it, but how do you determine the price of the property when you put it up as a tax sale?
So when a property is put up for tax sale, it is for the amount of the taxes, penalty and interest, and any legal fees owing on the property.
Deputy Mayor.
I don't know when it happens, but I'd be in favor of an option that would allow the township to own this property. It's 54 acres. It's an old mine site. I'm not sure if it's contaminated or not. I know it had buildings on it in the past. It would, in my mind, be an ideal site as a candidate housing place. It's 54 acres. It's right beside 509, right at the Robertsville Road. It's a beautiful looking piece of property.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Regent.
So Kelly, both these options, just to be clear, mean we have to take money out of a reserve fund? And what is the lowest amount that would come out of the reserve fund, the $84,000?
So the recommendation in front of you was to write off some of the taxes and us to re-tax sale it, which would be the 84,000. If the township wishes to vest it, it would be 225,000 approximately.
We might need a recorded vote on this one too.
Deputy Mayor.
I'm not clear on that. We're owed $118,000 in taxes and penalties at this point.
That's correct. Yes.
Where does this 200,000 come from? Who are we buying it from?
So that's to cover the amount that's outstanding. If we write that off, we didn't budget to remove all of that. So we do have to balance our budget. The money does need to come.
So that 200,000 is money which we expected as revenue in the past. Now it's not revenue.
Yes.
So it's a shortfall on the revenue side.
Yeah, our budget would not balance if we didn't.
But we don't have to pay anybody any money for it.
We don't have to pay anybody any money, but we do have to
We have
balance our budget.
I understand, but we're not pulling money out of reserves. What we're doing is experiencing a shortfall in revenue.
Yes.
It's really just a balancing act on the balance sheet, correct?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
That particular property, for those of us who, well, talking like I've been here for years, that's where the uranium mine was back in the mid 2005, 6, 7, 8. I talked to Wayne Good about this last night, and there were other mines on that property. And the problem with the property is they don't know which way the water runs underground. So we both talked about possibly purchasing it for housing. I mean, it couldn't be any better. It's like, it's a good site. It's within a couple kilometers of the border of North Frontenac. Kingston's down the road an hour and 10 minutes. Ottawa's an hour and 20, sorry, an hour and 20 the other way. But you're buying a mine site. And if we decide to go forward, we would definitely need an environmental assessment, because once you buy a site, if there's a problem on it, you own the problem and you're responsible for rectifying that problem. So let's be very careful if we go forward. That's all I'm saying. There are sites in Guelph that have sat idle for years and years and years and years, and the bank has not foreclosed because they're contaminated to no end. And if they took it over, they'd be out millions. That's the problem. Councillor Hoodle.
So Kelly, let's say we went for option B where we're gonna lower and no one buys it there for the mayor's reasoning. Will it eventually just become our asset?
We still have to go forward and vest it. So council does have to say, we would like to vest the property. Otherwise it just sits and we just write the taxes off every year and it sits there, but then it's not a viable property anymore. So that's not the ideal situation. Some municipalities, we haven't created one, but have done RFP processes where people can bid, and it's a very minimal amount and what they're going to do to make it a viable piece of property so that we can collect property taxes on it again. So that is an option down the road. My recommendation, because we did have one inquiry about the property, is that possibly with the lower price, someone would buy it. It then becomes viable. We're collecting taxes on that property again.
Hermer.
Well, one of the dangers of this is we could pay for an environmental study and then find it's not suitable for housing.
And sometimes you have to take a risk, but all we have to know is going in, what are the pitfalls? I mean, are we willing to spend 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 on a property? It depends.
So whose property is it right now?
So it belongs to a corporation.
So, yeah. So why can't we make them do an environmental study? You can't do that anyway.
No, that we have no contact with them and they have no interest. They have walked away.
Are they even in business anymore?
I don't think so. There's been no communication for
Are they the
many
ones that
years.
were doing the original uranium mining there? Because they seem to be just
It is
mining
the
stock market.
owners.
Okay. Councillor Fowler, then Deputy Mayor.
I remember the uranium dispute and everything back in the day. As I recall, the actual uranium mine was something like 5 kilometers away from Route 509. This particular site had structures on it, and from what I understood, it was some kind of a talcum mill of some sort. And I don't know how much contamination you would get from that kind of operation, but it's not as bad as the uranium site, I'm sure.
Deputy Mayor.
I was going to suggest that I've heard the same thing as Fred, that the uranium exploration was further back in the woods and there's a longer history than uranium mining for that property. And that's what I'd heard too. It might be worthwhile for the township to invest a small amount of money to get a clean bill of health and just hold on to the situation for the time being.
Well, here's a question. If we got the property, could we take 5 or 10 acres of it? Like right next to 519, we leave access to the back half and make sure that part was clean, sever that 10 acres off, and then offer that up for the housing development. You know, severance, well, yeah. Just a thought. So, anybody else have anything wish to add to this? Councillor Hermer.
Were there any wells drilled at the time? Do you know?
No idea. Councillor Hoodle.
So, Mr. Mayor, do we defer this until we get more, some information at least of what can be done? Or do we have to do something now, Kelly?
So we have 2 years to act. I would recommend that if there's a consideration you want to vest it, that we take it back to kind of look at zoning and planning and what options are even available for that property. It would take us a bit of time. We do have 2 years to, well, short, a couple of months to make a decision. So maybe we can, reach out to the planners and just see, because it is registered as a mine property, what pitfalls or what they may be able to help with some more information.
I kind of think that's a good idea. Like, we don't have to do something today.
You don't have to do something today. No, you do have 2 years. After the 2 years lapses, then we have to re-tax sale and start the whole process over again from scratch. So we certainly don't want to do that. But if council is considering that they would like to vest it, I would say we would go back and do some research, talk to the planners, and come back with a report at a future meeting.
Can we advertise it again for sale?
So if you approve the recommendation in the agenda to write off some of the taxes, we can re-tax sale it and see if it sells. And if it doesn't, then you again have the opportunity to vest it, write off more taxes, re-tax sale it again. Those are the options.
Does council in general feel that this is best deferred to another meeting? Okay, how do we do that? Is it just the resolutions changed? Okay. Too bad there's no power lines close to it. Go ahead.
The amendment reads, be it resolved that council receives for information the treasurer administrative report entitled unsuccessful tax sale options, and the council defers a decision on this matter and instructs staff to complete research on potential development and report back to council.
Good. Sorry, Councillor Fowler.
Yes, I think somebody asked for a recorded vote. Do we need a recorded vote for this?
Well, hang on a minute. Councillor Region, you wanted to.
Not on
sorry.
the, you've changed it. It's fine now.
Okay.
I wanted a recorded vote on the original motion because I'm not spending taxpayer money on this.
Okay. Well, we deferred it, but yes. Yes, I think we all need a better understanding of what it is. So, okay. All in favor of this resolution deferring it? That's carried. Okay, so item E, purchase of a sickle mower attachment for the tractor.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Purchase of a Sickle Mower Attachment for Tractor. And the council approves purchasing the mower at an estimated cost of $14,000. And the $8,000 will be funded from the approved capital budget, roads, small equipment and machinery. And the remaining balance of $8,000 from the Infrastructure Sustainability Reserve Fund with an estimated year-end balance of $2,053,658 per the 2025 approved budget.
Comments, Councillor Fowler?
I'm looking at the agenda and it says 8,0000. That should be amended, I think.
Yes, good catch. Darwin?
I'd like to update my request and provide additional background.
Okay.
On this.
Go ahead.
I submitted this late last week with the sickle bar mower. Really knowing that it would be cheaper than a flail mower, and with the mowing season fast approaching, wanted to keep things moving along. I've reviewed it more and spoke to some other people in the industry. That sickle bar mower would be PTO mounted on the back of the tractor. So the operator's always looking back, and it's more prone to damage and maintenance issues than a flail mower. So what I'd like to change my recommendation to is a flail mower rather than a sickle bar. And it would be a 5-foot mower, the same size as the brushing head that we have on our new tractor with the boom. So it'd be mid-mounted and it would be on the boom. And then we'd have the full reach, it'd be more adjustable. And we can still mow shoulders with it, but it would give us the option of doing a pass behind the guide rails and around signs better. So I'd like to change that recommendation to a flail mower. And as I suspect it is more expensive. It'd be 25,000. And the 8,000 that was still available from my new equipment funding there in the budget would still be available. So the revision I'm suggesting to my recommendation is a flail mower cost of 25,000. And just with time as the essence here, and wanted to make sure this unit is completely compatible and fits on the boom and the mower we have. Asking that council approve a sole source purchase to the original supplier or another supplier of at least that make of mower, the same as what we have now.
Investment is 19,000 then, or the additional funds.
Did I have 8?
Yeah, you had, you had
sorry.
8, you had 14 less 6, that's 8. Now we're going at 25 less 6,
19,000, yeah.
Is that unit available?
There's an order time. I'm probably looking at 4 weeks. I was talking to them today. They want to know as soon as their decision was made to get the process going. I had only checked with the supplier that we currently dealing with that supplied the unit we have. I could check with other suppliers that handle that same model of equipment.
Any other comments, Deputy Mayor?
Is there some reason we're not contracting this out to private equipment operators with sickle bar mowers like we used to do?
Yeah, there is. When we went through the process of purchasing the new tractor, the business case for that was that we would be mowing our own roads. We wouldn't contract it out any longer and do it with our own equipment. And an operator from my regular staff. We haven't added an operator to do this. So trying to continue with that initiative and not be contracting it out and doing it in-house. We got stuck last summer, if you recall. We contracted out. We had to use 3 different contractors. We were still late getting it delivered, and I don't have the figures here, but we spent considerable amount hiring it done.
So I always question sole sourcing. So why are we sole sourcing this?
There's 2 reasons I'm suggesting here. One is just timelines, and 2, making sure we get a unit that's compatible with the hardware. We have the boom and the hydraulics and everything that we have on the tractor right now.
But it's really more about timelines, because the sole, if you go out for tender, you're gonna ensure that it fits our equipment, right?
Yeah,
so it's more about timing.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess a limited number of sources if we do tender, but.
Mr. Hermer?
Darwin, do we have an operator for this?
Yes, we do. We've been mowing the balance of last season and started early this season on brush with the mower we have, and we're using one of our regular operators, and we've trained 3 of them to operate it. So we've and that again was part of the business case when we originally proposed purchasing a tractor, was that we do it with an operator that we currently have in-house.
Okay, any final questions?
Thank you.
All in favor of the resolution? Sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Councillor Fowler will amend it. We have a seconder. Councillor Hoodle.
And the amendment reads, and that council approves purchasing the mower at an estimated cost of $25,000. And that $8,000 will be funded from the approved capital budget and the remaining balance of $19,000 from the infrastructure sustainability reserve fund. And that council approves the sole sourcing of I'm going to add the purchase of a flail.
Except you said 8,000 will be funded from the capital budget. That's only 6,000.
Sorry, 6,000 will be funded from the approved capital budget. I need to change that number. I swear to that.
Okay, folks, in favor? Okay, done, carried. Item G, net metering proposal for the township office. Deputy Mayor Ingles, Terrell.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, second by Councillor Fowler. Be it resolved, the council receives from information an administrative report entitled "A Net Metering Proposal for the Township Office" from Deputy Mayor Ingles on behalf of the Environmental Task Force. And the council directs the Public Works Manager to issue a request for proposal for the supply and installation of a net metering system at the Township Office complex. And that if consultant services are required to prepare the RFP, council approves the sole source assignment not to exceed $10,000. And that details of the RFP will be reviewed with the Environmental Task Force prior to being advertised. And that the estimated cost of the project is $210,000, including permits and consulting services, with the funds for the project to be taken from the Infrastructure Sustainability Reserve Fund.
Comments? Councillor Hermer.
How many years will it take to repay this?
The estimates are 7 to 10 years.
I think you're ahead of your time. I really do. And the reason I say that is we already have a microfit system on the roof that's functioning. We have a contract there till 2033 or 34. It was a 20-year contract. So those panels are still functioning. I understand, and I'm not sure, but that PV panels reduced in their effectiveness over time. Maybe so, maybe no. So the numbers you're quoting in your report don't take into account that I know of any retrofit or any rebate we're getting now for those panels against the cost of electricity we're using. So I'm thinking this should really be something that we should be looking at down the road 3 or 4 years when that system is, the contract is up. And you did talk about in your report about putting it on this roof and on the fire hall roof. But we also heard from Electra, who talked about solar systems. Any chance we can get them to throw the solar system panels in with their contract? And oh, I'm serious. You can put another 10 or 15 kilowatts on that roof. And we get the funds from that, and they put it in free of charge or at a minimal cost.
First of all, the $22,000 a year we spend now on electricity includes the power being generated by that very small microfit installation. So it's still costing us. There's really no relationship between the microfit installation, which is very small, compared to what we would need for this net metering system. It's about a fifth or a sixth or something the size of what I'm proposing in a net metering system. We're still spending $22,000 a year. So the point of this is by installing new solar panels on the roof, you completely offset the cost of electricity and you pay off the capital cost. And as I said, 7 to 10 years, following which you get another 10 to 15 years of free electricity. So my argument would be that there's no relationship between the existing small microfit that was put up and this proposal.
Will be 10 kilowatts. Okay, so Councillor Hermer.
Would this affect our insurance premium?
Not that I'm aware of.
That would be a question for the insurance company. And would it affect the integrity of the roof? And can the roof support it? So you're going to have to look at the quality of it. It's not just, I mean, the idea is good. I still think you're ahead of your time. The idea is good. We have to look at the structure of the roof, see if it will actually support it, how old's the steel on the roof. Like you're putting a 20-year, 25-year-old system on a 25-year-old roof with a 35 or 40-year lifespan. You'll be pulling those solar panels off to replace the roof before you put them back on again.
I've had two quotes already, and one of those quotes did an examination of the fire hall roof, and these are people who've had experience putting solar panels on steel roofs, and their opinion was that it was more than adequate structurally to receive panels. The other argument is that once you cover a steel roof with panels, you actually extend the life of the steel roof because you're protecting the roof underneath. If that underneath roof does fail, it is possible to remove the panels, fix the roof, and reinstall the panels, but there's no anticipation that that would need to happen.
Councillor Fowler?
Just got a point here. You had a quote done. Did that go through council that you should have a quote done on that roof?
No, I independently asked two companies to come and look. The RFP process that I'm proposing in this would use those quotes for information purposes only. We'd still go out to public tender.
I just sort of think it should go through council before we start getting quotes from the public companies.
Okay. I think this needs more work. I've already said it twice. The idea is good, but I think we're ahead of our time. But it's going to take time to develop, and I was serious about putting it in with Electra's contract because they do this sort of thing. Anyway, Councillor Fowler, last comment.
If we're going to make a resolution here, maybe we should give the authority to the Deputy Mayor Inglis to be able to proceed with those quotes. You're getting estimates.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your point.
Well, we're here before council right now. You want to look into this more, then maybe when you go and get a quote, we can authorize you to do it at this stage.
We not send this back to the environmental task force, which quite frankly, John's way it should have came up.
Well, that's exactly where it came from.
Is it?
This is a recommendation from, and I tried to put that in the administrative report, but apparently I'm not allowed to. The administrative report has to have one author. I tried to put it in. This is a recommendation from the environmental task force.
Okay. Councillor Hoodle?
So I don't think we're ahead of our time. I think this is a great idea. Again, it's a council decision. This has been researched and researched. I mean, we have tremendous people in our task force, a few electrical engineers that understand this way more than I do. So that's just my 2 cents.
Anyone else? Corey?
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Inglis, I just wanted to, in the resolution, it says council receives for information, its ministry report entitled "The Net Metering Proposal for the Township Office" from Deputy Mayor Inglis on behalf of the Environmental Task Force.
Clarified.
Hermer?
Maybe we should ask our fire chief if he has any concerns.
Okay. So my last comment is, my last job, I put $100 million worth of these in across the province of Ontario. And I've never seen one have a payback of less than 14, 15 years. I mean, it all looks good till an inverter goes or a panel fails. You have a lot of clouds and so on. I mean, technology is advanced. I know, you're going to tell me that.
You're a little bit older now, Jerry, like those
Wow.
times. Yeah, all right.
I just think it needs a little more work. We got essentially one page. And then we're asking us to spend $210,000. I don't know what we're getting from those panels that are up there now. Are we taking them off? What are we doing with them? Because you want to put all new panels on that entire roof. Okay. Can we get out of the contract with Hydro One? What about the fire hall? You could put them on the community center and Snow Road. You could put them on theoretically the workstation or the work yard in 506, but that would require framing to do that. Everything else doesn't face north and south.
this is one of the difficulties of creating a task force which comes up with ideas. The task force gets used to the idea and becomes an expert in the idea, in fact. Then we bring it to this council and it's like a bomb. I understand the reluctance. It's a new idea. It's a whole lot of money. And maybe we just need a year to think about it.
Well, it's $210,000 on a page or a page and a half. I'm not,
I have trouble writing 10-page administrative reports.
Anyway. Okay, so this is going to come up for a vote now. So does anybody want to defer this? Councilor Regent wants to defer it.
I just want to be clear about something. I like the idea, but I'm not ready to make a decision about this. Like, there's so many things and thank you to our deputy mayor for acknowledging how some things come in front of council and they never happen or they take forever. So I appreciate that comment, just as an aside, because I really wasn't allowed to comment earlier. But I want you to know this is a great idea, but I'm not prepared to spend money like this right now. But I would prefer it to be deferred because I don't think we should get rid of it.
And I'm just not sure what the next step is.
Well, hang on a minute. So we have a motion on the floor to defer it. Councilor Fowler, you second that? So that's what takes place first, right? Pardon me?
So we're going to defer, what are you
There's a
looking
motion
for?
on the floor to defer it. Yes.
Just for process, generally a deferral would have somewhere to defer it to. So like a length of time, back to the task force, so it'd be a referral, or to budget, things like that. So we just kind of need a bit more in this motion.
Councilor Regent, your motion?
I guess back to the task force, right? So it's the same way that we got constantly asked about housing on EDTF, more information, more information. We'll do the same with this.
Councilor Fowler, you support that? You support that, Councilor Fowler?
It is a lot of money. I think if we take at the task force, we take a better look at it, and then you can bring it back to council.
So you have to read this.
The amendment reads, just be it resolved that council receives for information the administrative report and that council refers this matter back to the task force for review.
Councilor Regent and Councilor Fowler, does that meet with your approval? All in favor of that? Carried. No kidding. Okay. Okay, so that is, then we need, next is item 11H, Environmental Task Force, Subcommittee for Short-Term Accommodation, a case of action, North Frontenac Short-Term Rental Bylaw.
Moved by Councilor Fowler, second by Councilor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the administrative report prepared by the Environmental Task Force Subcommittee for Short-Term Accommodations regarding a potential short-term rental bylaw, and the council requests the task force continue investigating the details for regulating short-term rentals and provide an updated report to council for further discussion.
Comments? Deputy Mayor?
It's my understanding that what we're asking for is simply permission to move to a next step. In other words, not to completely kill the idea that an STR bylaw is a good idea. We don't know how that bylaw would work. It would have all kinds of problems, but what we're asking for is that council ask the environmental task force to work on a potential bylaw. That's my understanding of the ask.
Councilor Hoodle as a chair, are you okay with that?
Yeah, so this was brought up at the last committee meeting. this is already on our work plan. So, and I try to make the committee members who are working on this understand, they just want assurance, because it's a lot of work, not only on the subcommittee side, but it's going to be some work on staff side. And they just want to make sure as they continue down this road that they still have support from council. Not saying we're going to create a bylaw, but just continue to investigate this and bring it forward to council. They just want like a extra pat on the back, I guess.
Okay. Can we have a report the next time? It's a little more environmental task force focused as opposed to NFLAA focused. Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay. All right, everybody in favor of this particular motion? Carried. Okay, item 12A.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Economic Development Task Force dated May 20th, 2025, and that Deputy Mayor Ingles will discuss the EDTF's concerns at an upcoming meeting of council.
Comments? In favor? Opposed? Item 12B, Environmental Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the notes of the Environmental Task Force dated May 28th, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12C, Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Ingles, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee dated April 28th, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12D, Caladar Berry Joint Fire Committee. You getting ahead of you?
So moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Ingles. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Caladar Berry Joint Fire Committee dated February 14th, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12E, Caladar Berry Joint Fire Committee Resolution 1725, purchase of a tanker truck.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Ingles, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information Resolution 1725 passed at the meeting held June 6, 2025 by the Caladar Berry Joint Fire Committee, receiving for information an administrative report regarding tanker bids. That council approves the committee's recommendation and approves the fire chief proceeding with the purchase of a tanker at the price of $717,400 plus the surcharge estimated at $19,000 and $1,500 to $3,000 for tariff charges for an estimated total of $739,400.
Comments? Counselor Fowler?
Just for information, it was budgeted at over 800,000 for this particular item. And it's a lot lower. So I think it's within the ballpark to vote in favor of it.
Counselor Hudel?
Maybe after our two leaders or our leader, the other leader, maybe the terrorists will be gone by then.
I did talk to Councilor Good last night and he was in favor of it. I asked, how did you get to 739? Because it's not here. And it would have been nice if that had been in the resolution, but we got it. And apparently we're buying this truck through a centralized purchasing scheme run by AMO. Canoe. So they solicit the best deals. And this is a Canadian truck.
It is not a Canadian truck. That's why the tariff's on. It's built in the States. It's through a Canadian dealership. There are no Canadian trucks. Have that right, Adam?
So even the trucks that we got out here from New Brunswick and so on they're basically built in the States and then Canadianized, so to speak.
Mr. Mayor, through, it depends who you purchase through. What Chief Cuddy, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tara alluded to was to purchase through a Canadian dealer right now, a Canadian built truck. Estimated wait times are 4 to 6 years. Like it's a long time.
Okay. It's time to buy the tariff. so to speak. Okay, in favor of this resolution? Carried. Okay, does anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none. We have no motions, written notice, which has been given by a member. We have council portfolios, verbal reports. I actually printed it off so I can follow it this time. So the first is Mayor. So on June the 3rd, I went with the county CAO and Justin Brownberg, the head of the Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation, and we went to Queen's Park in Toronto, and we met with Minister Flack and Minister McCarthy and their staff, and we talked about the Municipal Service Corporation, especially related to whatever size of development we could get. They indicated that they got it, especially when we said to them, we don't want any money, we just want the permission to speed this up. If you want to build a 10-unit subdivision, or you want to build a 1,000-unit subdivision or a 5,000-unit subdivision, the times are exactly the same. And the times are in the neighborhood of anywhere from 2 to 5 years, emphasis on the 5. So we told them that was unacceptable, and they claim they're working on it, but we're going to have to take time to see what actually happens. I met with Bruce Moore from the NFLAA. We had a good conversation about various initiatives. I attended the County Frontenac's Emergency Management Committee meeting. Did ask, how does that committee, or how does that task force manage emergencies when the township manages emergencies? How do they interact? And they've sort of agreed to work on it because they didn't really have a decent answer. I mean, we have an emergency here and they step in and start doing stuff, and we have all the equipment, we have all the resources, and we're already handling it. What do they bring? But on something like a COVID pandemic or something like that, they might be the go-to because they have all the paramedics, hospital connections, and so on and so forth. Did attend the county council meetings, attended the Eastern Ontario Regional Network's AGM, and Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation's AGM. On Saturday night, I'm at the Cloyne Historical Club dinner in Fernley Lodge. And on June 17th, I'm at the Frontenac Business Services AGM in Harrowsmith. And that's it. So next one up is Wayne Good. He's not here. Councillor Regent.
So the Lakelands Family Health Team, we have our AGM next week. Mazenot Lake has their AGM on the 5th of July. That'll be the first Lake Association meeting in my ward. I don't have any updates from you from the long-term care and social services because the communication from that way this way is very poor. And my OPP detachment board meeting is next Thursday.
Okay. We had asked you to talk to Janice Powell about the doctor status.
You need to clarify what your question is.
Okay, well, I talked to her.
Okay.
And I'm really surprised. We got $95,000 on the table, 1,500 patients, and we have a doctor that's paying or not happy, but hasn't got his residency card. And quite frankly, Counselor, you don't seem to have a lot of interest in this.
We don't have, so I don't appreciate the insinuation that I don't have any interest in Dr. Weldon's private life. His status card or the nature thereof, which affects whether or not he is able to purchase property in this township, is really none of our business. We put the money out so that we could support the hiring of a doctor, and that's where our responsibility ends. And I've said several times that if you would like to get into more detail about Dr. Weldon and his other stuff, that you're not getting that information from me. And you spoke to Jan anyways.
I did.
So there's no point to keep bringing this up.
But you're on the committee.
But I have nothing to do with his personal life and whether or not he purchases a property.
We have a doctor who is unhappy because he's paying rent that he doesn't have to pay when he could be paying his own mortgage.
What would you expect this council to do about
Well,
that?
we're working with John Jordan and we're working with Scott Reed.
Well, as the
and you're-
warden of the county, you can help with that then.
Actually, we can't. And we're-
Great. So why are you asking these questions when you already know
You're-
the answers?
You're on the committee.
Yeah, but I have nothing to do with that. It's none of my business.
You just do your job. That's all I'm asking.
Jerry,
I would appreciate some respect.
All right.
this is getting personal now.
Yeah.
So.
Right, the do your job and the peanut gallery comment from a month ago,
Which I apologize.
not
for.
appropriate.
And we'll do this in closed council, I assure you.
No, I think the apology should come in front of the people of this township that are sitting here.
Councilor Regent, you're paid $19,000 a year to do a simple job. It's not that difficult.
Okay, so another inappropriate comment.
We'll see. All right, so the lawyers have said to put it into closed council. I'm a little off, and we'll put it there. Okay, anybody, any other questions for Councilor Regent? Okay, and on the doctor, both MP and MPPs are working with them. We're also working with the Township of North Frontenac and the Township of Valley Highlands to push this through in the next 2 weeks. We will see where that goes. Okay, the next is Councilor Hoodle.
We had our MVCA board meeting on Monday. It was actually our strategic plan meeting. Some of the stuff we talked about is getting more community involvement, municipal buy-in, and Category 3 projects, which cost us money. Reviewed all our priorities. One of the interesting things that Sally brought up was the provincial government's interest in wells and septics on private property. So it's kind of ironic that we're sort of ahead of the game there, but we'll see where that goes. Because all the rural wells here are not tested, like it's a volunteer testing system, so that may change in the future. What else? And after the meeting, we visited Chat Falls Generator Station up on the Ottawa River, which was a really amazing tour. The dam is 4 kilometers long. Like it's an incredible site. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And then we got to tour the inside. Right in the generators were built in 1929. They're still there, 8 of them. It's pretty cool. Most of that electricity goes to the Quebec side. I had the Malcolm Lake AGM last Saturday. They were very interested in the waste site opening again, as you can imagine. So lots of questions about that. And the next one up is Kashawakamak, where I'll be doing a presentation on the environmental task force.
You, Councilor Hermer.
No report.
Okay, Councilor Fowler.
Yes, today we had the EOTA meeting in Tweed. The big item there is a Rockin' the Trails ATV ride. It's happening on June 21st. All of the ATV tickets, there's 1,010 have been sold out. But there is going to be a concert in the evening and tickets are available if anybody's interested to go. And it's going to be quite an item on that day. For the North Frontenac Trails Alliance, I don't have anything to report. County business, same. Portfolio regarding the lake associations, I'm looking forward to be able to go to some of the AGMs. If I'm invited, I will certainly do the best to attend. Seniors and law enforcement together. On May 30th at Snow Road, we had a real good presentation. It was on wildfires. And we had over almost 40 people attending that particular one. Coming up on June 19th, there's another SALT presentation at also Hall and Sharbert Lake. And it'll be on marine safety. These things start at 11. And what we do is we have the presentation, and after the presentation, we have food available for all the people to attend. So if any of you are interested in attending some of these, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Just to add to Fred's comments here, for any of the country and western entertainer or people that enjoy country and western music, Jason McCoy will be the entertainer at that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor. Deputy Mayor.
I have nothing to report on Ward 3 Lakes. I see a couple of people here from Palmerston. Let me know if you're having a meeting.
Okay, that's it for that. So next item is the introduction and reading of bylaws. We have none. So we have a public forum. So what that public forum means is that anyone in the public, be online or in the council chambers, if you're in the council chambers, we want you to come to the mic and you can voice an opinion on what has transpired here so far in the meeting. Keep it concise. Remember the original notification I read. Is there anybody here would like to do it? Mr. Lesperance, please.
So I gather that most councils want to run efficiently. They want to do things as efficient as humanly possible, whether it be public relations, building, what have you. So where does efficiency come in when you have a economic development task force with a deputy mayor on it? So second in command to you, so you can't get too much higher from the top of a direct line of communication to further agendas or ideas in a, whether it be a committee or subcommittee. So we get rid of all those to make another one, which takes time, and you got to organize people and essentially take all the information that people worked for however long they have to stand on their shoulders to come up with something that you're saying that because the deputy mayor and under can't do it, you alone are able to do that. For if you can, great, but I fail to understand how all of the people that help you do your job can't do it, but you alone can, because he is on the committee. There was people that were in the subcommittees that were working hard. There's people out behind me that are helping the people in the subcommittees. I'm a contractor. I'm trying to help with numbers. I'm trying to help with floor plans. I'm trying to help with actual concrete numbers to this is how much a unit's going to cost, start to finish. I think that's how a council would like to have it presented. No more, no less. This is how much it's going to be. So I've been working with some of those subcommittee members. Well, now I can't because that subcommittee's gone, which could have reported to the deputy mayor and reported to you. So I just don't understand the efficiency of your idea of we have to start all from scratch, find new people, new volunteers, all that. How is that efficient? It seems to be a big step backwards if I'm reading that right.
Okay. So this is not a back and forth. We're listening to what you said. So if you want to add anything else, now's the time to do it. Okay. Or you and I can have a discussion some other time, but we don't do that here. This doesn't become a back and forth.
Okay.
Okay, but your points are heard. Is there anybody, or so do you have anything else?
There's a lot.
Okay. Anybody else like to add to this?
Already.
And it did pull it up.
Yeah, hold on.
One of my questions was answered with the fire. It is a risk. There is a chance. Can our fire department look after such a fire? That, now affordable housing. Deputy Mayor, you have questioned me on it. Look what I've done with 2 homes in the area that were pretty much tear down and now they're being lived in again. Affordable housing is needed across Canada, not just in North Frontenac. That's just common sense. Nope, that's good.
Before you go, the property that you purchased next to north of 7, have I got that right?
Yes.
Can you turn that into affordable housing?
We're gonna see where that goes.
Run your business until you get approval to put a subdivision in there?
I'm not talking subdivision, I'm talking affordable housing.
Well, affordable housing, once you get over 5 units, you're into a subdivision.
Mm.
That's a problem.
Mm.
And that's where we ran into the 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Mhm.
So it takes time to get there.
No, it does take time and it will take time. And I don't mind doing it on my own. I'll do my own affordable housing.
Okay,
A council member here approached me and wanted to partner with me on it. I'll also add that.
that's good to hear. Okay, anyone else? Sorry, are you done?
Yeah, no, I'm-
Okay, okay. Anyone else? And you would be?
My name's Donald. I'm pretty new to the area. Moved here about 2 months ago. Some of you may have read some of my material. Now I've started up a media company talking about you guys basically and what you're doing and what our environment country is doing. I'm here specifically today. I'm investigating this battery storage solution idea. I've done a lot of investigation into it. I've watched probably about 20 other township meetings that are recorded throughout the States and Canada. I've heard lots of people's takes on it. What I learned through it, and from listening to Kevin today, I got his contact info. I will be talking to him too. There was, as a concerned person who lives here, not as a media person, there was a lot not said by Kevin, including fire. He basically said, we can't do anything about it. It has to let it burn. That's a lot of smoke and pollution. There is no emergency service to deal with it. The only thing able to deal with it is this foam stuff I'm not familiar with, but when it comes in contact with water, it seeps into our water table and renders the whole area polluted in the drinking table. We can't drink the water. That's how serious that issue is. And whatever he said about containing the fire because they're separated, that's not true. It spreads. Lithium batteries burn. The next thing is lithium batteries are not the best batteries at all. It's actually a technology that's on its way out. I've dealt with lithium batteries for a few years, from electric bikes to learning about cars and stuff like that. My lithium batteries, they're about 5 years old. They're only half capacity. So batteries are going to have to be replaced in this thing about every 5-10 years. I don't know if you guys know about that, but they definitely degrade very quickly. Roy approached Kevin over there privately to tell him he was asking a specific question about dismantling and decommissioning. There has to be a fund made on investment to decommission the whole thing, reset the land back to what it is. That has to be put in a pool and a fund, mandatory, non-negotiable. This has to be able to be dismantled. If it has to be. Back to batteries. Do we not want to invest in the best technology for our area? It's so beautiful. Are we just settling with lithium batteries? There are new batteries out, and every single university in the world is researching new battery technology. Solid state batteries, for example, they're not chemical batteries. If they leak, if they burn, it doesn't matter to the environment. It's a smoke, it's a house fire. It's not as bad. Why are we settling with lithium when there is other options? In 5 years, the battery scene across the world is going to be changed completely. Lithium will be old technology. We'll look at it the same as we're looking at lead acid batteries now. Another thing, the last thing, I've heard that we're getting about $300,000 a year for this. That'll buy a couple hundred feet of road. That's not much money for the risk that it poses. Now, I think we should ask for the most possible. Mayor Litchty, he said, let's press them to add solar panels on the roof. That's the right direction. We should be pressing them for a lot, possibly sewers all through Plevna, possibly big projects that, help us. So, one of the big attractive things to this is developers would look at the fact that we have a battery backup system, and they would be more likely to invest in a subdivision type stuff. And then problem within the States is, the citizens in those township meetings, they said, well, this is coming no matter what. If we say no, they're going to go above our heads and do it anyway. So it's all in their best interest to try and get as much possible. Because if that thing goes, this whole area is gone in 20 years. Like the water will be undrinkable. I think, the one last thing. It's a sensitive topic. And I noticed that it was in a line on one of Kevin's slides, the very last point. First Nations Canada will hold equity in this project when it's finished. Why don't we hold equity in this kind of stuff? Why do they get equity in the project for the future? So thank you.
Before you go, the reasons, thank you for your points. There was two questions asked. One was about fire and one was about bankruptcy. Company goes bankrupt. It's a 20-year contract. They go bankrupt at 19 years and 11 months. We don't have to take the old system out. That's what we have to be careful of if this would ever go ahead. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'm not sitting down as to argue anything that about EDF or the battery thing or whatever. You and I met at the Cenotaph last 2 years. I'm a veteran of your township. And oh, sorry. I think it was up. There we go. I'm sitting down here. I came here just to see how things happens in a council meeting and to get information personally about economic development and everything. But what I've seen here tonight really bothers me as a veteran. It really does. I think that the motion put forward about the swastika flag needs to be reconsidered, and we're treading a fine line when we discard things like that. And there's two ways of looking at it. There's 118,000 soldiers that died since the Boer War, and some of them are a friend of mine from the Afghan War. And they died for the freedom of this country. They died for peace, for freedom, and acceptance of other ethnic group, no matter where they came from the world. In World War II, which is what we're referring to here, I grew up on the East Coast, and my parents were just young kids during the war. And the Germans brought their U-boats to the coast, and they opened their hatch, and they let out their crew members, which were Nazi Germans. And they landed on our beaches. We didn't turn them around. We didn't line them up on the beach and shoot them. We accepted them. And they came here with swastika flags on their jacket. The reason why we accepted them is because Canada is a country of peace and freedom. And we accept everyone. The problem I see in this motion is perhaps a personal vendetta. You have to look at yes, the Nazis did bad things, but what has arisen from it? What did our forefathers that fought that war would want, right? It doesn't have to be just the swastika. I hate when somebody put my beloved Canadian flag upside down in their yard, or they're black and white, or it has a stripe through it. Hatred is hatred, and it needs to be discussed. But when we start fringing on the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression that we so dearly fought for, that's where there's a problem. People that landed on those beaches, last name Baumler, Emler, perhaps Ermer, I'm just shooting that in the dark here. They were not turned around. We accepted them. I think this motion needs to be revisited And I think that discussion on the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression has to be really talked about. In perspective, the Nazi regime and any other dictatorship regime in the world that started, they started by extreme powers given from the top to the bottom, right? I've witnessed that tonight. Those powers have been given to you. And we have to be very careful with that sort of power. In a democracy, it used to be, it went from the bottom up. We voted someone in and they represented us. But when things starts coming from the top to the bottom, it's no longer like that. So you can veto at any given time anything that comes from the public, right?
The council override, but you're right. This is not a gift. This is just a minefield. And the mayor ends up with a target on his or her back.
Right.
Because if I do something, somebody likes it, somebody else doesn't. If I do this, they like it, these people don't. Can't win.
Understood. That's it. I wanted to bring that up, is that we're crossing some lines that some of them, you know, my brothers and sisters have died for.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate hearing from you.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else in the council chamber? Kelly, is there anyone online that wants to raise your hand and have something to say?
So if there's anybody online that wishes to speak, please use the raise hand feature. I'm seeing none.
Thank you. So now what happens is we go into a closed session, which means we have to clear the council chambers. And you can come back at the end. You can be here for the resolution, and then we'll take a 10-minute break while everybody has to leave. And it's just the way it's like sort of like an in-camera meeting. And if you want to stick around outside, we can call you back in, and depending what we discuss and what the results are, we may be able to announce or summarize what we discuss and the results.
Can I just read the closed resolution?
Yes.
Yeah. Moved by
Motion to return to open session. Okay, motion to return to open session in which we discussed, or which we passed minutes of a previous meeting and which we discussed explicit information that's confidential. So all in favor of returning? Carried. Okay. And that takes us to the confirmatory bylaw, item 20.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Engels, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-26 being bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held June 12th, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time and finally.
In favor? Carried. Adjournment. Any final comments? In favor? Meeting's adjourned at 8:17.